You know that smell when you open a root cellar door in late October? That cool, damp, living earth smell that hits your face like a whisper from the ground itself. The air is heavier than the air upstairs, maybe 10 degrees cooler, and it carries the faint sweetness of apples layered in sawdust, the clean dirt smell of potatoes nestled in straw. That smell means food. It means you made it through another season. My name is Jeremiah Byler. I'm a farmer up here in Lancaster County. Been putting food by for the winter every single year since I was a boy of 12, helping my father shovel dirt over the cellar hatch. I'm not a researcher, folks. I'm a practitioner. These hands have dug more root holes than I can count, and I've watched the English pay $4 for a single tomato in January that tastes like wet cardboard, while my family pulls tomatoes off the vine in our cellar that still taste like August. Now, here's the part that should make you uneasy. The modern grocery store wants you to believe that fresh produce must come from a refrigerated truck, that it must be picked green and gassed to ripeness, and that you have to pay premium prices in winter because that's just how the system works. But the truth is, the system works very well for them. The average American family spends upwards of $600 more on groceries between December and March than they do in the fall, purely because seasonal produce disappears from the cheap bins and reappears wrapped in plastic from South America. They count on your ignorance of an old, simple truth that a hole in the ground, properly built, will keep food fresh longer than any electric appliance they can sell you. So let me explain why this problem even exists in the first place. It's not because food spoils, it's because we've forgotten how spoilage actually works. Fruits and vegetables don't just go bad randomly. They go bad because of three things: too much warmth, too much oxygen, and too much moisture cycling in and out. When you pick a carrot, it's still alive. It's still respiring, still releasing water, still trying to grow roots. If you throw it in a warm kitchen, that respiration speeds up, sugars turn to starch, moisture evaporates, and within a week it's limp. Put it in a refrigerator and you slow that down, sure, but you also dry it out with that desert like air, and you're paying $30 a month in electricity to do it. A root cellar works differently. It harnesses the Earth's natural temperature, about 45 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on your latitude, and the Earth's natural humidity, which hovers around 85 to 95%. That's the sweet spot for most vegetables. Cold enough to slow respiration, humid enough to stop wilting, dark enough to prevent sprouting, and it runs on nothing but gravity and the soil around it. No compressors, no refrigerant, no monthly bills. Just dirt and air and a little bit of good sense. Now, let me walk you through the step by step method, the way I taught my own sons. We're going to build a simple backyard root cellar that'll hold enough food for a family of four through a 5-month winter. This isn't a grand underground palace, it's a practical weekend sized project that any able bodied person can accomplish. Materials list with exact costs. You'll need a north facing slope or a well drained spot in your yard. If you don't have a slope, you can build an above ground mound and cover it with earth. That's what my grandfather did on flat Indiana ground. Cost zero for the spot. Pressure treated 2 by 4s, enough for a frame about 6 feet wide, 8 feet long, and 7 feet tall interior. That's about 15 boards at $4 each. Call it $60. 3 sheets of 3/4-inch plywood for the walls and ceiling. About $45 each, $135. Rigid foam insulation board, 2-inch thick, enough to cover the interior. 4 sheets at $25 each, $100. Now, some folks use straw bales for insulation, which are cheaper, maybe $5 a bale, and you'd need about 10. That's the more traditional route, and it works just fine. I'm giving you the foam option for simplicity, but I'll mention the straw alternative in a minute. A 4-inch PVC pipe, about 10 feet long for the ventilation, $15. A smaller 2-inch PVC pipe, another 10 feet for the intake, $8. A roll of 6 mil plastic sheeting for a vapor barrier, $20. Gravel for drainage, about 10 bags at $5 each, $50. A pre-hung exterior door, salvaged from a restore or building supply, maybe $80 used or $150 new. I always buy used. That's $80. Shelving lumber, another $40 and $1.12 boards. A thermometer slash hygrometer combo, $15. Total cost, about $523 if you buy everything new with foam insulation. But if you use salvaged lumber, straw bales instead of foam, and a used door, you can do this for under $250. I built my last one for $210 because I used barn wood and straw. So let's say $250 for a solid working cellar. Now, here's the step by step, the way I'd explain it to a neighbor over coffee. Step 1. Choose your spot. Walk your property and look for a north-facing bank. If you're on flat ground, pick the shadiest, coolest corner of your yard. You're going to dig a hole 6 feet wide, 8 feet long, and 7 feet deep. That's a lot of dirt, about 2,200 cubic feet. But you don't have to do it all by hand if you don't want to. Rent a mini excavator for a half day, that's about $150. Or bribe your brother-in-law with a case of beer and a couple of shovels. I'll be honest, I've dug them both ways. Shovels are cheaper and they build character. Step 2. Lay your drainage. At the bottom of that hole, put down a 4-inch layer of gravel. Slope it slightly away from where the door will go. This is critical, folks. Water is the enemy of a root cellar. If groundwater seeps in, you'll have rot and mold before Christmas. The gravel lets water fall through and drain away. Cover that with your plastic sheeting as a vapor barrier. Step 3. Build your box. Frame the walls with your 2x4s, stand them up, and attach the plywood sheathing to the outside. You're building a wooden box in the ground. Now here's a trick I learned from my uncle. Before you drop that box into the hole, attach your rigid foam insulation to the outside of the plywood. That way the insulation is between the wood and the earth, protecting it from moisture and temperature swings. If you're going the straw route, you'd pack loose straw bales between the box and the dirt walls after you set the box in. Step 4. Set the box into the hole. Make sure the top sits about 6 inches above grade so rainwater doesn't run straight in. Backfill the space around the box with the dirt you dug out, tamping it down firmly as you go. This is hard work, but you want no air pockets. Air pockets let heat seep in. Step 5. Install your ventilation. This is where most English fail. They build a perfectly sealed box, and their vegetables suffocate from the ethylene gas they emit. You need 2 pipes. The intake pipe, the 2-inch PVC, should run from the outside, near the ground, into the cellar at floor level. This brings fresh air in. The exhaust pipe, the 4-inch PVC, should run from the ceiling of the cellar up and out, ideally extending above the roof of your house or at least 2 feet above ground level. This lets warm, stale air rise and escape. And crucially, you need a small piece of insect screen over both ends to keep out critters. Adjust the intake and exhaust openings to control the temperature. If it's getting too warm, open the intake wider. If it's getting too cold, close it down. You're managing a living thing. Step 6. Build your shelves. Use the 1x12 boards to create slatted shelves along the walls. You want air to circulate around the produce, so don't use solid shelves. Leave gaps, and don't store your food on the floor. Put everything up on those shelves or in bins. Step 7. Hang your door. The door should face north if possible, and it should fit tight. I use a salvaged exterior door with a good weather stripping seal. And I always put a small lockable latch on it, not for theft, but to keep raccoons and curious children from opening it on a warm day and ruining the climate. Step 8. Wait a week. Let the cellar settle. Monitor the thermometer and hygrometer. You're looking for 45 to 55 degrees and 85% humidity. If it's too dry, you can set a shallow pan of water on the floor. If it's too wet, open the vents more. Every cellar has its own personality, and you'll learn its quirks just like you learn a wood stove. Now, once your cellar is ready, you got to pack it right. That's the second part of the old world method, and it's just as important as the hole in the ground. Here's the secondary bonus trick my grandmother taught me: storage mediums. You don't just toss potatoes in a pile, you layer them. For potatoes and onions, I use dry straw or shredded newspaper. But for carrots, parsnips, and beets, I use sand, damp sand, not wet, just moist enough to clump when you squeeze it. You get a big bushel basket or a wooden crate. Put a layer of sand on the bottom, lay your carrots in a single layer without them touching. Cover with another inch of sand and repeat. That sand stops moisture loss and prevents rot from spreading from one root to the next. A carrot stored in sand in a good root cellar will still be crisp and sweet in April. I've eaten carrots in June from the previous fall's cellar, and they were better than anything from a grocery truck. For apples, I use sawdust. Lay them stem up in a wooden crate, separated by sawdust. Make sure no apple is touching another apple, because if one starts to go soft, it'll spoil its neighbors in a week. And check them every couple of weeks. Turn any that are starting to soften into applesauce immediately. That's not waste, that's preservation. For cabbages, I don't store them in bins at all. I pull them up, root and all, knock off the loose dirt, and hang them upside down from a ceiling hook in the cellar. The roots continue to draw little moisture from the stem, keeping the head tight and crisp until February. Now let's zoom out to the bigger picture here, because this isn't just about saving a few dollars on carrots. This is about your independence. The average American household spends about $500 a month on groceries, but that spikes to nearly $652 in January and February as fresh produce costs double. That $600 extra over the winter is pure profit for the supermarket chain and the shipping conglomerates and the fertilized gas warehouses that keep your fresh tomatoes red but tasteless. They have engineered a system where you are completely dependent on a 2,000-mile-long cold chain, a chain that can break. A single ice storm, a single grid failure, a single trucker strike, and those shelves go empty. I've seen it happen. In 1993, we had a blizzard that shut down the interstate for 4 days. Our neighbors, who had no cellars, were at the mercy of what the National Guard could drop in. We ate roasted root vegetables and apple crisps and didn't miss a meal. The cost comparison is stark. Let's say you grow your own vegetables in the summer, and even if you don't, you can buy bulk from a local farm in September for pennies on the dollar. I bought 50 pounds of potatoes last fall for $12. At the supermarket in January, that same 50 pounds would cost $45. 50 pounds of carrots cost me $15 from the Amish auction. In January, that's $40. 20 pounds of onions for $8. In January, $25. Apples? I had a deal with a neighbor, we traded. But if you buy a bushel in October, you'll pay $30. The same bushel in February, if you can even find a good one, runs $75. Add up those numbers, plus the tomatoes I canned and the squash I cured, and we eat through the winter on what amounts to less than $80 in bulk purchases. The English family next door pays $680 more. That's money that could go to your children's school fund, your home repairs, or a family trip in the spring. So here's your specific, weekend doable call to action. I'm not asking you to dig a 7-foot hole this Saturday. That's a 2-weekend job. But I am asking you to do this. Right now, this weekend, 1. Walk your property and find your north-facing spot. Put a flag in the ground. Just commit to the location. If you don't have a yard, find a corner of your basement that stays coolest. You can build an in-ground bin there with sand and a tarp. 2. Go to your hardware store and price out the lumber and foam. Write the numbers down. Compare that to your grocery receipts from last January. Feel the difference. 3. This is the big one. Start with one crop. Buy a 20-pound bag of carrots from a farmer's market or a roadside stand this week, and a bag of sand from the hardware store. Take a plastic storage tote, drill a few holes in the lid for air, layer sand and carrots, and store it in your coolest basement corner or unheated garage. Just do that one thing. Carrots will keep for 3 months that way. No electricity, no refrigeration. Do that this weekend. Call me when you taste that first crisp carrot in February, and you'll understand why you need a full cellar. 4. Once you've tasted that success, start digging. I give you my word. It's the single most liberating project you can do for your household budget and your peace of mind. Now, in our next talk, I want to tell you about the spring house, that little stone structure built over a running stream that keeps milk, butter, and eggs cool without a single watt of electricity. A spring house is a different kind of magic, and I've built 3 of them. But that's a story for another evening. For now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever eaten a carrot that you stored yourself through the winter? Or have you ever walked through a grocery store in January and felt a little angry at the price of a bell pepper? Share your story in the comments below. Tell me what you're storing or what you want to learn to store. I read every comment and I answer what I can. This old knowledge doesn't do any good sitting in my head. It has to pass to hands that will use it. This is Jeremiah Byler from the Byler Homestead saying goodnight. And trust me on this. The earth already gave you a cold room. You just have to dig for it.